Welcome to the cockpit. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. Guys, we're going to do this the same way we do every Monday night. We are going to do call-in questions starting at 8:30. But I will give you my thoughts and monologue over the whole New York Jets situation, kind of what we got going on. I see D-Mac, Lame Cactus, Bills fan forever. Man, always, never missing a stream. Val, MI9 Money, Mitt Flair, Joe West, thank you all for tuning in. Much appreciated. All right, so a little bit of information that we have learned about our Jets. This just in. We stink. All right, let's talk a little bit about draft order. Now that we know, I guess not a whole lot more, but if you're new, Jets currently own 5. Two other teams are currently own 5. Crosstown rivals, New York Giants, owning the top pick in the draft at this point in time. Atlanta Falcons own 5. Jets are sitting third at 0-5 with the hardest strength of schedule. Guys, if you want your shot to win a Just End the Suffering shirt, where is it? That way. If the Jets don't own the number 1 pick, which position would you choose? Answer on the Flick chat down in the description. There's a link for that. I believe it's the third link down. Click on that, answer the poll question, get yourself entered to win a hat, shirt, mug, or a Just End the Suffering shirt at the end of the stream. A little bit of housekeeping. Guys, in the lower right-hand corner, you're going to see mybookie.ag. If you use promo code JT, they will match your initial deposit up to $1,000. Use promo code JT. Gamble with me, win some money in a season that's otherwise lost. mybookie.ag, promo code JT. They'll match your initial deposit up to $1,000. Make sure you head over there. Guys, it's been rough. It's been a rough first 5 games. Jets haven't been 0-5 since 1996. That was also the last time Jets owned the number 1 overall pick. Is that right? Is that math right? I think that math's right. Oddly enough, the only team that we beat in that year, it was a 1-15 season, was the Arizona Cardinals. That did not happen this year. We clearly lost to the Arizona Cardinals, and Kyler Murray had himself a field day. Not so much on the ground as I would have otherwise thought. He only had 31 yards on the ground, but the threat of him being able to run was just so stressful on this defense. Very stressful. He wound up having 380 yards in the air, accounted for 2 touchdowns total. 1 passing, one rushing. And this team really didn't have an answer. DeAndre Hopkins just destroyed Lamar Jackson, our cornerback, which when you think DeAndre Hopkins, he should probably go up against an undrafted free agent rookie cornerback, you might notice some flaws in his game. I have some issues with Adam Gase, the play calling, the situational awareness, and then we can get on to the whole Le'Veon Bell discussion. Le'Veon Bell does not want to be a New York Jet anymore, and I can't really blame him. He was a little upset with Jamal Adams when he fired his way out of town. He's like, come on, dude, you said we were building something here. And now he kind of sees just exactly what Adams was probably trying to get away from. He is our best receiver on this team, Le'Veon Bell. And we had 1 target for 7 yards. And he had 13 rushes. 13 rushes, that's it. Granted, that was the most rushes of any of the running backs in our stable, but even still, we are so hurt for wide receivers and offensive weapons, and we cannot find a way to get one of the best playmakers in the history of the NFL involved in our offense. That is by far a damning indictment on Adam Gase. The offensive guru, the guy everyone, is frustrated with right now. What do we do as Jet fans? What can we do? Is there anything we can do? Do we even want to do anything? because you got some Jet fans that just want to get Gase out of here. I was very much on that train. I want to see what we have in Sam Darnold before we have to pull the trigger on Trevor Lawrence. Or is the best decision just bottoming out, going completely, terribly wrong this entire season, the rest of the way out, and just get that number 1 overall pick? Keeping Gase ensures that number 1 pick. Do you keep him, or do you try to move on from him? You may wind up with the 2nd or 3rd pick, but maybe you know what you have in Sam Darnold. I believe if you are 100% in on Trevor Lawrence, if that's kind of what you're going for, by all means, bottom out. If you think there's a few quarterbacks, like 2, 3 quarterbacks, that you think could be a potential option, Lance from North Dakota State, I believe it's North Dakota State, very high on him. In the limited amount of research that I've done, he seems to me like the direction that the NFL is going. I really like him. So maybe it's worth seeing what we have in Sam Darnold. Because who knows? If Sam can turn it around the way that Ryan Tannehill has, the way that Kenyon Drake has, the way that Jarvis Landry has, the way that Devontae Parker has, the way that Robbie Anderson has, is it worth holding on to Sam then? Is it worth trading out of that spot? Or is it worth taking another position? If you guys want your shot to win a hat, shirt, mug, something like that, go into the Flick chat down below. Answer the question that's below the screen. If the Jets don't own the number 1 pick, which position would you choose? Now, I listed out the top 5 that I could really think of. You might have another option, so I apologize if I didn't put that on there, but just kind of my thoughts. Guys, we've got 17 likes. We've got 100 people in here. Make sure you hit that like button. Show these people just how much fun it is to like the cockpit. What are you guys talking about in the chat? You said, go get Lincoln Riley, says Jack Peters. Lincoln Riley is on a huge deal. If we get the number 1 overall pick, we're going to have a good shot at trying to rope in a top-level head coach. Not owning the top pick is going to make that a little more difficult. That's one thing about getting the number 1 overall pick that does very much appeal to me. I don't like the idea of passing on Sam Darnold, because I do think he's going to turn into a star elsewhere, but I do understand the necessity to do so because of the situation we find ourselves in and because we completely botched everything with Adam Gase. So does Christopher Johnson pull the trigger? What happens if we look at the game tape at the end of the season and Christopher Johnson is so dead set in his way that he loves Adam Gase? He is the offensive mastermind. He sees wide receivers, bad caliber wide receivers getting wide open and Sam Darnold not making those throws. Guys like Cager wide open across the middle, Herndon running up the seam, Crowder along the sideline. These are situations that have happened. What happens if Adam Gase doesn't get fired at the end of the season? Is there any way possible that the Jets could somehow screw themselves over and keep this man and draft a new quarterback? I would lose my goddamn mind. I would be jumping off the top of this building. I'd be so frustrated. I think it's a load of crap. Adam Gase should be gone. He should be gone now. There's no reason that Bill O'Brien or Dan Quinn should have gotten fired prior to Adam Gase. I think both those teams, the Texans and Falcons, are better teams than the Jets. So maybe you say their records are more damning than what the New York Jets currently are sitting at. I don't know. I think Gase is a terrible head coach. I think the majority of the NFL fan base thinks that he is a terrible head coach. When we initially signed him, we were all very upset that we got Adam Gase as our prize. That's what we got. That's what we needed. It wasn't a Super Bowl champion coach. It wasn't a guy that turned around programs in college. It wasn't a promising offensive mind. It was a guy that failed in his first attempt as a head coach in Miami. Our division rival. We got to see him twice a year for that stretch of time. Ridiculous. I saw some tweets going around. I believe it was Next Gen Stats. Samini retweeted it at some point. We'll talk about whose stock is up, whose stock is down on this New York team right now. A lot of us want to just say the entire team is down, or the entire team has no ups. There's a few. First one on the list, Chris Herndon. Another big-time drop. Very upset with the play of Chris Herndon over the course of the last 5 games. He's someone that I was really hoping for last season to have a big connection with Sam after a very promising start to his career in 2018. But he has been a very big disappointment. He has dropped countless balls over the last few games, and he just doesn't seem to come up big when we really need him. V-Man says, did you see the video I sent you on Twitter? I did not see it. I'll have to take a look at it. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. What video did you send me on Twitter? I see it. Using clips from the internet, I have recreated how the Jets hired Adam Gase in the aftermath. I will take a look at that after. It sounds like there's probably volume to this. I don't think I'm going to do this on air right now. All right. So Chris Herndon, big drop, very down on him. Number 2, George Fant. George Fant stepping in at left tackle for the injured Mekhi Becton. It was an attempt at getting a more concrete starter. He started as a left tackle for Seattle for a time. Rather than putting our second-year player, Chuma Edoga, on that side of the field. Fant allowed one sack and 10 first pressures. Not good. Not okay. You have Flacco sliding around in the pocket just trying to avoid a pass rush. It feels like this team just doesn't know how to help their quarterback out. Offensive line-wise, George Fant, for me, would have been a fine right tackle. I think, at least Sam or Flacco, whoever it is, could have seen the pressure coming. Him on the left side, not a huge fan. Now we go on to Chuma Edoga, our other tackle that played, not including the, tail end of the game with McDermott at left tackle. Edoga gave up 2 sacks, giving up far too many pressures. Part of that is wide receivers not getting open. Part of that is probably rust. Joe Flacco holding on to the ball a little too long, hasn't played in about a year. There's a few issues. Lamar Jackson at cornerback. Probably not the best decision to put him on DeAndre Hopkins. In total, Jackson gave up 9 catches, 148 yards, and a touchdown. And DeAndre Hopkins just had his way with him. Just toyed with him all day long. In terms of stocks being up, I think the one that most people are going to talk about first and foremost, and rightfully so, has been the only steady Eddie that we've had all season, and that's Jamison Crowder. He puts together his 3rd game of over 100 yards, adds another touchdown to that. He has been the only bright spot on an offense that really doesn't have many. You're talking Becton, Lewis, really the only guys that kind of stand out for me overall. Then you got on the defensive side, Avery Williamson having a nice interception, ball getting tipped up in the air, him returning it down to, I believe it was like the 10-yard line, 10-yard line, somewhere in there. Would have been nice if we could have gotten more than 3 points. Not good execution when you're in the red zone if you're the Jets. But that's not Avery Williamson's fault. And on the other side, not on the other side, but on the defensive line side, a guy I've been very impressed with over the last few weeks is Franklin Myers. He adds a sack to his resume in a relatively limited amount of playing time. he has been someone that I want to keep my eye out on over the course of these next few weeks and see how he can develop. The Jets seem to have, I don't want to say some gems on the defensive line, but it feels like we have some playmakers. You got Quinnen Williams, Franklin Myers winds up showing up. You have, in the past it's been Henry Anderson, it's been Foley Fatukasi. It seems like there's always guys that are kind of popping up here and there. Disappointing wise, if you really want to go there, we'll say stock down. I shouldn't say stock down, I guess. Stock slightly up after being very far down. Connor McGovern, believe it or not, last night or yesterday, graded out as an 84.8 in pass blocking. That is up significantly. His highest prior to that this season was a 41-1 on Pro Football Focus. So he more than doubled what his worst performance was. He wound up finishing out with a 70.3 for Week 5. Again, that's 12 points higher than his best performance of the year. So that was good. That was nice to see. There's a lot of interesting names when you look across the Pro Football Focus grading and who's really been the shining stars on our defense through 5 weeks. Guys that are looking a little bit better, according to them. Our highest guys on defense, Franklin Myers right now, 12th on defensive interior part of the line. Brian Poole continues to be a great cornerback. He's graded out as the 9th best corner, playing in our slot role. You have Williamson at a 69.3. It's good to get him back. He's the 13th ranked linebacker out of 74. And then you have Hewitt at 15th with a 67.5. So Hewitt's turned it around nicely over the last few weeks. Some guys to note on the defense, guys that we've kind of been watching, not doing that great. Bless Austin, not grading out real well right now, 44.3. Pierre Desir, 51.3. Bradley McDougald, the safety who came over from the Seattle trade, 43.5. Not ideal for a Jets defense that should be a top 10 unit, or at least we've wanted a top 10 unit. Now maybe without Mosley, you kind of throw that to the wayside. But with how many picks we've invested over the course of the last decade, you would expect a better performance from them than what we've gotten out of them. I see you guys are looking for a new mod. I've just bestowed some power on our boy NY Sports MC. You will be in charge of people who are being ridiculous in this chat. So you now have the blue wrench of power. If you guys want your shot at winning the Just End the Suffering shirt, answer this question. If the Jets don't own the number 1 pick, which position would you choose? Answer that in the Flick chat down below. In the description, it's the 3rd link down. Click on that, answer the poll question, get you entered. If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball. Vincent Jones. Ryan, how you doing? I'm doing great. Barely having a bad time. Barely. This Jets team has been nothing short of frustrating all season. It's hard to even get emotionally attached when you're this bad. One silver lining that I saw, maybe I'll make a video about this, I haven't done that yet. One thing that I saw a little bit of hope for was that Adam Gase is willing to step down as play caller. He's allowing to let someone else take over the reins. Would that be Dowell Loggins? I hope not. I would really like to believe that would be Jim Bob Cooter. I would like to see, although oddly enough, our run game has not been very good, so maybe Jim Bob Cooter's not the guy we want to take over, but I'd prefer rolling the dice on him over whatever we'd get with Loggins. So if Adam Gase decides to step down in terms of play calling, does that change your opinion on the Jets? Do you think the Jets get better? Are we going to wait until we get Mims back? Are we going to wait until we get Perriman back? I think it's time for a change. I think we need it. I think we owe it to Sam. I think we owe it to this roster. These players, while it doesn't look like they're playing real hard, this is a year of their career that they are wasting on a team that doesn't seem to be willing to win. Very frustrating. Vincent Jones, can I share my opinion on the Flick question? Absolutely. You can share it. The nice thing about Flick is there's a lot of different areas to comment on. It doesn't just have to be the poll question. If you want to ask questions, it's fun. It's actually a lot of guys are tuning into it. I think we got like 50 guys in there right now. It's a lot easier to have a discussion in there compared to some other formats that I've used in the past. Dark Demonic says Adam Gase quit already quit when he said that comment. He was hired because he is some offensive-minded coach. What's the point in keeping him if he quits making calls? Because we're not going to get a head coach in here right now. If he steps down as play caller, that at least gives you a little bit of a thought process of like, hey, look, maybe I can run a team. I just shouldn't be calling the plays right now. Something's a little out of whack. It's almost like the weird sort of circumstance with Bill O'Brien. He was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to call the plays. And then he gets canned because he was GM and head coach, and he just got rid of both of them. David, the Scottish New York Jets fan, says, how bad do we need to get rid of Gase? That's really the question that I think a lot of us are wondering. With the change in schedule, so now we are playing the Chargers week 11. That was when our bye was supposed to be. Our bye has been moved to week 10, and we are now playing Miami next week instead of the Chargers. So in a season, maybe this is this better for the Jets? I don't know. Because if you face Miami towards the end of the season, like we were supposed to, we still face one of their games at the end of the season. But if you had both games, there's a real good shot that the Jets are playing Tua Tagovailoa twice. Is it better for the Jets to face a rookie quarterback 2 times? Or is it better that we verse a red-hot Ryan Fitzpatrick right now? Better, meaning, do we have a higher likelihood of getting the number 1 overall pick now that Miami has been moved forward? Because Herbert, who we would have versed this week, now gets an extra, 6 weeks to get better, learn the offense, iron out some kinks. We also get an extra 6 weeks of videotape on him, so maybe that neutralizes that. How does this affect the Jets' chances to get the number 1 overall pick? Does it hurt it? Does it help it? I don't know. I just don't know. Money says Gase is on snow. Just a little of that, white powdery substance, that crackhead stuff that he's got going in that first press conference, the smelling salts, all that good stuff. Kenneth says better to face Fitzmagic, of course. He is going to be red hot. Vincent says I would draft Sewell. That is the tackle from Oregon. Because I trust JD to get a wide receiver with our other pick. Or in free agency. So I say we get another offensive line stud, one side Becton, the other side Sewell. Sewell is one of those players that I've heard about over the last few years that just seems like a lock at tackle. So that begs the question. It's going to be real interesting. Does Sam Darnold do better with 2 rock-solid tackles? You got left tackle, right tackle, totally locked down for the next 10 years. Do you do that? Or does it make more sense to take the wide receiver? I would opt to take the wide receiver personally. As much as I think you do need offensive line, I think we could solve some of that if you re-sign Alex Lewis. So you got Becton, you got Alex Lewis. You got to roll with McGovern for a little bit longer. Maybe you draft an heir apparent in the later rounds, 3rd, 4th round, something like that. You need a guard to replace Van Roten, I think. You're probably looking at Thuney, possibly, if you want to spend a little bit of money. Bring him in. Sheriff is going to be a free agent because he was franchise tagged this past year. Ron Stanley is the other one. I think I want to say there's 3 guards that are hitting free agency. Thuney being the premier guy of the bunch. And then at right tackle, you either roll with Fant Edoga, who was a pick 2 years ago. I think in terms of not going quarterback, wanting to help your team, our number one pick has to be one of two things. For me, it's either a wide receiver, you're taking Jamar Chase, or you're taking the edge rusher. If you take the edge rusher, that basically gives you the position that you have not had in a long time. It's going to be interesting to see what guys choose. Guys, we're going to go to the phones in just a second. It is 8:30, so we will get to the phones. I got to get to some super chats. I got Jordan Ivey, Robert Saleh from the 49ers for coach. What's his, I'm assuming, offensive coordinator? Let's see. Defensive coordinator for San Francisco. So that's interesting. You would prefer us to go with a defensive coordinator over an offensive coach. That doesn't resonate well with me, I don't think. I would prefer us to go offensive side of the ball. Now, I just want a head coach that can lead. If we can get a leader as a head coach and him just bring in an offensive coordinator that's good at calling the plays, I don't need someone to have a specialty to be our head coach. I do really like the Harbaugh method. Harbaugh, not the 49ers, not Michigan Harbaugh. I'm talking Ravens Harbaugh. He was a special teams coordinator. So he's got a specialty in offense, defense, special teams. He kind of sees all the players across the board. That's the type of head coach I would prefer, someone that's a good distributor of power, a good distributor of knowledge, things of that nature. He doesn't focus on one side of the ball like we saw with Todd Bowles, like we saw with Adam Gase, like we saw with Rex Ryan. All these guys were kind of locked into their side of the ball. So for me, I've said it before, Urban Meyer's my guy that I would really like to kind of pry out of retirement. I know he's got his skeletons and there's issues with that, but the guy has proven to win at the collegiate level. I think he would bring respect to the young players that we're going to have to be bringing in. We're loading up with draft picks. I think you need someone that resonates with the team. I don't think Bieniemy is going to be an option for us. I'm not necessarily banged up about it. I think he'll be a fine coach. For me, I think he is going to the Texans after the season. I think he's going to team up with Watson. He's going to try to implement some of the Patrick Mahomes style plays that you've seen from Kansas City. That seems to me like Bieniemy's best fit. All right, guys, I know you want to voice your opinions. So let's take it to the phone lines. Phone number is on the screen. It's now your turn to let me know how you guys feel about the Jets. What do you want to talk about? It could be something I didn't bring up yet. It doesn't necessarily have to be Jets related. If you have another question about another team, I'm good answering anything.
Call from
Eli.
Hey, what's good, Eli? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm trying to hang in there. I did my best not to fall asleep during that Week 5 game.
It was rough. First of all, prayers for Dak. Hope he gets better. Before everything, I just want to say that.
Yes, I feel terrible about Dak Prescott. For those of you that didn't see, dislocated ankle, does not look good. He was playing on the franchise tag, so will he ever see that $300 million contract that was offered to him? I believe it was the $300 million contract. I don't know if he'll ever see that again. Thoughts and prayers go out to him. I feel real bad. But all right, Eli, what's on your mind?
First of all, before I get to Jets thing, I was looking at your hat in the background. Where do you get a pilot hat like that?
Pilot hat? That would be, it might have been Amazon when I got it. I got it like 3 years ago. I don't know if they actually have this color left anymore. It's a winter hat. And so it's got a little bit of the fuzzy stuff on the inside. Not real warm. I used to wear it I shouldn't say I used to wear it. I've worn it during the streams before. But it gets hot and my head gets hot. So Maybe I'll wear it
like
for
a
a
hat
little
you
bit.
wear, the snow hat. So I mean, yeah,
Well, it definitely is. It's definitely supposed to keep me all nice and toasty.
yeah. Well, you have everything you've seen to Darnold, I think. We just saw Flacco play, a 35-year-old quarterback who hasn't played in like a year, who was coming off neck surgery, and the year before that he had hip surgery, who had 1 week of practice, and he looked much better than Darnold. Like Darnold looked like he's struggling, he's holding the ball too long, he can't find anyone. You saw Joe Flacco was more confident with his throws and in the pocket, and yes, was he having receivers? I mean, yes, the receivers were bad. They weren't getting open. Was the offensive line giving him a lot of pressure? Yes. But you saw, like, a lot of his passes were dropped. Flacco looked much more impressive than Darnold. And I know Gase is bad. I'm not defending Gase. Gase is a terrible coach. Like, he's god-awful. But if Flacco can succeed, I think Darnold can show something, and he hasn't.
See, I don't know if I would call what I saw yesterday succeeding in any capacity. I will say that Flacco did look more decisive on his throws. I think he probably hit more open guys. He did have the drops. I think Herndon's been a big issue this season. He's had some big drops on third downs and wide open opportunities. I do think having Le'Veon Bell does help in some capacity, even though we didn't use him the way we should have been using him. I also think the Cardinals are a little bit easier team than what we've faced, well, I guess aside from the Broncos. So I don't know. Look, I don't have much faith in what I've seen out of Sam this year, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I think Joe Flacco, all of a sudden looked good in this offense. Like, I think this offense, by and large, talent-wise and scheme-wise, is a bigger issue than necessarily Sam versus Flacco.
Well, no, I don't think Flacco's a starting job. I'm just saying he looked better than Darnold.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I've also got bad news. I just got, like, an hour ago, I got ESPN notification that the Falcons owner said he's not confident in Matt Ryan, that he's their quarterback in the future. So I was thinking, if they get a first overall pick, they could be a potential, we could maybe trade up. But now maybe they take Trevor Lawrence, and now it's kind of like, I don't know what to do if they get the first overall pick.
Well, that's going to be the biggest hurdle, because with the Giants getting the first pick, there's a chance they don't take Lawrence and they might trade out. With Atlanta getting the first pick, I think they would take Trevor Lawrence. Matt Ryan's not getting any younger. That team feels
35.
like they're too good. That team looks like they're too good to get the first pick. That's more so my issue.
Yeah.
Of the teams that are towards the bottom of the barrel right now, I would say the Jets and Giants have the best likelihood of coming away with that number 1 overall pick. Outside of that, maybe Washington. Like, everyone else seems like they could play better. The Falcons, the Vikings, the Jaguars, the Texans, the Chargers, Detroit, Denver, Philly, all these teams, Cincinnati, they all look like they could play better, and they all play games that could be more winnable than what the Jets are going to wind up having to face. So,
well, the Jets, they have a hard schedule. They have a very hard schedule. And, like, everyone who I thought was going to be good, basically was the opposite, right? I made a home screen before, like, with Photoshop before the season. It was Darnold, Denzel Mims, and Le'Veon Bell. I just made a new one today. 3 different people. Jamison Crowder, Trevor Lawrence photoshopped in his Jets uniform, and Mekhi Becton. Literally, our team, we have, and those are like the only 3 players I can take. And Trevor Lawrence isn't even a player on our team. He's like a hopeful pick. So really, Jamison Crowder and Mekhi Becton are like the only 2 players who I think will be with us for long term, or like a good player we have.
It's going to be real interesting to see what happens with the Jets if we don't get the number 1 overall pick. Everyone's kind of banking on getting this first overall pick, but it's not a given. If this season goes sideways with COVID, if something just like a stray happens, the Jets wind up peeling off 2-3 wins, there's no way. The Jets have to get the worst record. If they don't get the worst record, they're not getting that number 1 overall pick, and they have to make sure the Giants or the Falcons win games. Well, Eli, thank you so much for calling in. Get out of here! You've been ejected from the cockpit. Eli brings up some good points. Brings up a lot of good points. Guys, if you want your shot to win a Just End the Suffering shirt, down in the description, the 3rd link down is the Flick Chat. Answer this poll question. If the Jets don't own the number 1 pick, which position would you choose? Answer that. Get yourself entered to win a shirt or a hat or a mug or something like that from the store, make sure you head over there. We got a few people in on that right now. Looks like we had 10 votes right off the bat. 10 votes. That's a 10% shot at winning. That is way better than any of the raffle tickets you're going to try to scratch off. Mitt Flair says, Ryan, be so happy to eject Eli. I like talking to Eli. Got no hate towards Eli. I just love ejecting everyone. That is a nice, satisfying feeling. It is very, very satisfying. Jet fans are biting their toenails, praying for the number 1 pick. Of course, no one wants to be the 2nd pick or the 3rd pick. If you're going to stink, you got to stink it, all the way through. If we don't get the number 1 overall pick, I guess the worst case scenario could be really bad. It could be us not landing the head coach we want. It could be that the Jets have to roll with Sam Darnold then, which may not be the worst thing. I still believe in Sam. But now you're getting a guy that's coming in to try and rebuild Sam or rework Sam. Is that something that you feel comfortable doing? I don't know. But if you have that number 1 overall pick, now a head coach can come in and decide whether he wants Sam Darnold or if he wants the quarterback of his choice coming out of college.
Bobby from Tennessee.
Bobby, what's good, brother? How you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. It's been a lot of depressing Jets football I've had to watch this season.
Man, I feel you, brother. I've been a fan for 45 years, and, man, I just keep hanging on, dreaming of the day. So I certainly feel you.
What's on your mind, brother?
Hey, I just wondering, with the bye coming up, do you think there's any chance that we can say goodbye to Gase and all of his nonsense?
I think there is probably no shot that the Jets get rid of Adam Gase this year. I think they're going to wait until the end of the season. They'll let this whole thing play out, partially because they want that number 1 overall pick. The other part is probably Chris Johnson not wanting to admit he was wrong in hiring Adam Gase, and another part just being like, hey, a head coach that comes in, hey, look, we gave our guy 2 full years. He has been terrible. And that's, we give you the shot. You get the shot if you come here.
Right. Yeah, I'm afraid that it's more of the second that Johnson is just afraid to admit, that he was wrong or anything about Gase, And, but, I feel like possibly, too, if we brought anybody else in, be it an assistant or something to finish the season, that we're going to end up the same difference. So I think possibly we're better off waiting to the end of the season and maybe having a pick from the litter, if you will, of different coaches. And, I like your idea of possibly bringing in Urban Meyer, with a huge dollar figure. I'm sure it would take, but it would be worth, I feel, every penny of it.
Yeah, I feel like him, more so than a lot of other possible head coaches, brings a legitimacy to the team. Like, this guy's won championships while it's not in the NFL. This team's going to be surrounded by a lot of young players. You're going to be using, inevitably, the next 2 years, first-round picks on players in the first round. 2 first-round picks this year, 2 first-round picks next year. You got your second and 2 third-round picks this year. So, like, there's options that... I don't know. I feel like Urban Meyer can speak to that demographic, maybe more than a veteran roster per se.
Sure.
I don't know if there is an offensive mind. I shouldn't say just an offensive mind, but I don't know if there's a head coaching candidate out there right now that I really value. Like, I don't really want Harbaugh from Michigan. I think he hasn't performed well at the collegiate ranks right now. And then when you look at some of the other guys, like Josh McDaniels is a hot name, is a sexy name. But I don't want to see what happened to Indianapolis happen to the Jets. Like, I feel like that's very Patriot-esque if we were to try and pull him over, and then he goes, nah, you know what, I'm going to stay in New England. So I don't know. Is there someone you particularly want to see coach the Jets?
Not really. It's like I've been, dealing with the fact of the enemy like most people, but, it just concerns me due to the fact that he really don't call many of the plays, most of the plays, and he's been passed up by so many other teams. I'm just a little gun-shy with him. I would really like to see Meyer, given an opportunity with the team.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. I know he did want to try and get into the Dallas locker room. I think you could see a situation where maybe he wants to play or coach the Texans. That would be the only person I could see bumping Eric Bieniemy out of that role, unless they just completely go sideways. I feel like either one of those guys would make a lot of sense for that team. I think the Texans, unless the Jets do own the number 1 overall pick with all the cap space we have, I think there's a good chance the Texans are going to be the most attractive landing spot. Although I guess the Falcons, if the Falcons get that top pick, they'll be whoever owns the top pick plus the Texans, those are going to be the 2 most attractive coaching positions this offseason.
Absolutely, that makes perfect sense.
Now, who do you want to see? Who do you want to see the Jets take if they don't own the number 1 overall pick?
Oh goodness, I'm really not sure. There's so many good wide receivers out there right now that we need and could use. That would be my second pick, probably.
Wide receiver would be your choice if we didn't have that number 1 overall pick.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good choice. Brother, thank you so much for calling in, and I hope, for your sake and my sake, these Jets play a little bit better, and we can see something worth watching on Sundays. You're out of here! Awesome. Tennessee. I don't think I have Tennessee marked off on my big board yet, so I gotta throw a little push pin in there. Dark Demonic says Bills moving to Canada would be the best. The Bills were probably pretty close to moving to Toronto. Josh Allen saved that.
Call from
Chris.
Chris, what's good, dude? How you doing tonight?
Oh, not bad. How are you?
I'm trying to hang in there. What's on your mind? How's this team treating you?
Well, I've been watching all the games, and there's just been something going through my mind, every week. And it's just, if we do get the number 1 pick and we take, Trevor Lawrence, or do we, if we get like the 2nd or 3rd pick, it seems really appealing to me to take someone like Jamar Chase and keep him with Sam Darnold and have a new head coach. But I just don't know if you're at that one spot how you can pass on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, for me, I think if you're sitting at number 1, Trevor Lawrence is the obvious pick. I think there's enough tape on Sam Darnold to suggest that he has regressed the last 2 years. I think not having to trade up for a quarterback is a very valuable thing to have. So if I'm sitting at 1, I'm probably taking Trevor Lawrence. Unless there's a team that just offers a haul. Like I'm talking 3 first-round picks, multiple second-round picks. Like if some team is willing to blow the doors off on a trade, I would consider that. This team is way in need of talent, more so than just one quarterback. But at least this time around, we have the ammo to draft guys. We have the left tackle already in place. So if Lawrence is coming in, he's coming in a better system and a better situation than Sam Darnold was given his rookie year. If we don't own that first pick, I would say wide receiver has got to look really good. If you think Chase is a legitimate number 1 wide receiver and you think he's a stud, a la Mike Evans, a la, if you want to call Amari Cooper, top of the draft, that kind of player, if that's the guy you think you're getting with that pick, I think you make that move and you just go all in on Sam Darnold. I think a lot's going to have to decide on free agency too. You never know. I would like us to go with 2 edge rushers in free agency. If it's like a Melvin Ingram, maybe a slightly older pass rusher, and pair him up with a Bud Dupree or a Matthew Judon or Shaq Barrett if he shakes loose from Tampa Bay. I think it would be good for the Jets to get some pressure on opposing quarterbacks. I think it's going to make a lot more of our defense look legit, and then I think getting C.J. Mosley back could be a shot in the arm. But this draft, I'd like to see be more about the offensive side of the ball. ETN is a big name that O'Leary and I have talked about. I'd love to see the Jets get him. I think he's going to go middle of the first round. I don't think he's going to make it to us at the Seattle pick.
Yeah. Do you think there's any way we have the number 1 pick and you take Trevor Lawrence and say you bundle the Seahawks pick from next year and trade up to get Jamar Chase as well? Or I know it's kind of far-fetched, but
That's a jump because you're talking Chase is probably going in the top 5. If you're looking at players right now, I mean, maybe you say 2 quarterbacks go in the top 5, then you have the tackle from Oregon, the edge rusher, and then it would probably be Chase. So those would be my top 5 picks. I don't think the Jets are getting up that high. If the Jets are sitting with the Seattle pick, Seattle may wind up picking 32. They're that good this year.
yeah.
If we're saying, let's say 28. I think 28 might be the floor that we see of Seattle. If the Jets are picking at 28, you'd have to package a lot to move up. Like, I could see the Jets moving up to like 17, 20, something like that. But even then, if we own that pick, I think I'd rather just sit back and let the draft board fall to us. We need so many players, I don't think it's worth giving up other picks unless there's like someone you are head over heels for. But I would not move the picks needed to get up to go get Chase. I think there's enough wide receiver history in the drafts that indicate that a top wide receiver may not necessarily be the best option. Sammy Watkins, top wide receiver. Buffalo gave up a first-round pick just to select him. I don't think that's if that's what Chase winds up being, I would not be very happy with that. But if I get maybe a slightly less thought of wide receiver without having to trade up, that might be more the option. It really depends if you're a home run. If you're a home run, I think you go and get your guy, but I don't see that being the case with that late first-round pick.
So if you could have a wide receiver in the free agent class like Juju or Allen Robinson, who would you take there?
If we're rolling with Sam and we're keeping Sam, I think Juju is the obvious choice for me. That's who I've wanted for a while. I just don't see a situation where we get the first pick and we decide to maintain Sam. Like, if we get the first pick, I think Juju's probably not here. I think then Sam may wind up going to Pittsburgh at that point. But brother, thank you so much for calling in.
You're out of here!
I very much appreciate your call. Guys, if you want your shot to win a Just End the Suffering shirt, make sure you go to the link in the description down below, the Flick Chat. All you have to do is vote on what position you would like the Jets to address if we do not get the number 1 overall pick. I think most Jet fans will agree. We feel like if we have the number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence should be that pick. What if we don't get that pick? Answer that and get yourself entered to win a hat, shirt, or mug from the Jets Talk store. Man, Bills fan forever, just stirring the pot in the chat. Stirring the pot. Got our boy Dr. Monic sticking up for us. I like it. How many Super Bowls do the Bills have? I'll give you a second to think about it. 0. That said, I would take their entire team over our entire team right now. Oh, man, we stink. Let's see. Quiz 1-on-1 says, I trade you 2 picks for both wide receivers. Bateman is like an upcoming Hopkins. I'll have to look into Bateman. I haven't done much of my draft research yet because I'm trying to really pay attention to the games right now.
Accept, press 1.
Maybe I shouldn't be doing that. Brother, how you doing tonight? Welcome to the cockpit.
Oh, my God. You are talking to someone who survived that 1-15 season.
Ugh. I had to sit through it, and I'm pretty sure we had season tickets for that season, and I'm pretty sure the one game we won was in Arizona. So I sat through all 8 home games, plus whatever preseason games it was, just to watch us win an away game.
Now, there was this sports writer. I don't know if his name was Mike Edelson or Rick Edelson. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not, no. Is that, you talking, there's a quote.
Yeah,
I'm
the one
right?
who sent that to you. So anyway, I'm just doing this so everybody else can hear this.
Absolutely.
So one year, this guy, either Mike Edelson or Rick Edelson, was doing little paragraphs or 2 paragraphs on every team for the upcoming season. And this is what he wrote about the New York Jets that season. He wrote, and I quote, "The New York Jets are so bad, they'll be lucky if they win 1 game. Rich, Kotite can't coach." That was his whole thing on the Jets. That was his whole review of the Jets. That was it. They'll be lucky if they win a game Rich Kotite can't coach. Unbelievable. Yeah. Everybody else got paragraphs. The Steelers, the Chargers, Redskins. Well, not the Redskins anymore, but back then they were Redskins. I mean, just as one little snippet, Jeff, Rich Kotite can't coach. I mean, and now Adam Gase can't coach. I mean, this is, and here's the kicker. Our head coach that they fired for Rich Kotite was Pete. God,
Pete
now
Carroll.
I'm having a mental break. Pete Carroll.
Oh,
I think he was 5-11 and he had nobody. But you know, he was the defensive coordinator. He used to always wear his baseball hat backwards. Everyone loved him. Everyone thought he was going to do good. And then, you know, Rich Kotite gets fired from the Eagles, and he was dating Leon Hess's daughter at the time. So they hired him.
I did not know that.
I think they went 7 funny. They went 7-9 their first year, and then he just went 1-15. And I'm just watching history repeat itself, and it's ridiculous.
It's sad that that's how things are going down, because I was a big fan. Now, at the time, I did not know Pete Carroll. I was way too young. I would have been probably 4 or 5 when Pete Carroll was our head coach. But I did really like hearing all the stories when I was younger. And then when he went to USC, I was like, oh, the USC is my team. You know, Keyshawn Johnson's from USC. Carson Palmer's from USC. So I'm like watching USC. I'm watching Leinart play. I'm watching Reggie Bush play. And then he goes to the Seahawks. So the Seahawks wind up being like a, you know, sort of an NFC favorite for me. And then Jamal Adams has to go there and just rain on my parade. I don't want to root for that team.
I'm not mad at Jamal anymore.
I'm not either. Based on what this franchise is, Jamal's right with being upset with this team. Most of us felt like he was right. No one thought he was wrong in his comments of Adam Gase. We just thought he was wrong with how he did it, and we thought he was a liar for saying he wanted to be here when he clearly wanted to be out the entire time. But yeah,
well, it looks like Le'Veon might be joining him out there.
Yeah,
maybe
I think there's a real
play
shot.
Together anyway.
Yeah, I could see there's a real shot him going to Seattle or him going to like Indianapolis. I think a team that could fight for a playoff spot that wants a little shot in the arm could be in play for Le'Veon Bell. I just don't think the Jets are going to get very much back for him.
Anyway, I have a question for you.
Fire away.
If we get Eric Bieniemy, and he thinks he could do something with Sam, should we trade out of the number 1 overall and with all the other draft picks we got for Jamal, just let Joe go wild and just put a good team together and just say, because if it doesn't work, we can always get just a quarterback at another time. Either a veteran for 3 years to pull it tight together or something. I don't want another brand new quarterback. I just don't want the growing pains. I think we should just trade back if we get it and just load up this team. Let the next head coach have a lot of, give him all that stuff, and it might actually help attract free agents, because right now I can't see any free agent wanting to play for this train wreck.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's no free agents that want to come here willingly. I will say this. Whatever our head coach wants is what I would like. I would imagine our new head coach wants to tie themselves to their new quarterback with that first overall pick, and thank you so much for the call. I will say this. I think that if that head coach wants Sam Darnold, I would trade out of number 1. Hands down, I would get a haul of picks and just surround Sam Darnold with talent. The worst case scenario is in a year or 2 years' time. Let's say you exercise the 5th-year option on Sam. The worst thing that happens is that you have a loaded team with young players on young rookie contracts, and then you can bring that player on. You can bring in a new quarterback after Sam, flops or whatever it is, and then you have that team loaded. So I'm okay with trading out of number 1 if our head coach wants to do that. Detonator 10, brother, how you doing tonight?
Yo, I'm doing fine, man. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It really has.
Anyway.
What's on your mind?
Well, after thinking about taking a bunch of antidepressants, I have chosen not to this season, all right? I know it's a tough choice, but you know what? I find alcohol much more appealing. No, but
oh no, you're not wrong. There's a reason why we are the one of the more rowdy fan bases in the NFL.
That right. Anyway, so yeah, I was going through and stuff like that, and looking at all these comments in the live chat, and all the comments everywhere on Jets Nation, and I agree with almost all of them pretty much. In the fact that I like all the ideas. However, there are some that I do want to address.
Sure.
That I don't think if you have the number 1 pick, you should trade out of that pick.
Okay.
In all fairness. Now, this isn't a bash against Sam in any way. I think I love Sam, but his time might just be coming to an end, and we do that to him. He did not do that on himself. I feel like we put him in that situation, and now we need to find a new person that we either pollute, just like we did Sam, or we get someone else in here that could do better. Now, I'm a big Sam Darnold fan. I have a poster of him looking at him right now, looking at me, and he's looking at me with his eyes, and I'm like, those some nice eyes. Anyway, besides the point. What is your take on this whole situation? Do you think if let's say Trevor Lawrence, let's say we got the number 3 pick or number 2 pick this year, Trevor Lawrence is taking number 1 because we did not trade up to get him, and do you want to take a different quarterback, or do you just want to start building other talent? Do you trust in any other quarterback other than Trevor Lawrence in this draft to really get the job done?
I would say yes, I do. It depends on what the head coach wants. I will err on that side. I'm not necessarily pushing Sam out the door, but I understand when fans and players and coaches look at Sam and they say, hey, look, he's definitely regressed over the last 2 years. I think he definitely has. I think his footwork's regressed. I think his ability to pull the trigger on a throw has regressed. I think we've seen that. For me, if I had to pick another quarterback option, if that were the pick early in the draft, Trey Lance is the guy I'm looking at, I think. And that was just a very minimal amount of tape that I've watched. I have to watch a little bit more. I know a lot of people are going to say Fields from Ohio State, but Lance, to me, looks like he is the better of the 2 quarterbacks, even though he's playing in a lesser conference.
Right. In my opinion, I think perhaps you go somewhere else in that regard, depending on who's out there. Not saying like none of you can bash Trey Lance, but I mean, might as well if you don't get Trevor Lawrence, and I think you can still keep Sam. I know like people always go to this, but the problem with Sam is that he's going to be going to his 3rd head coach within 4 seasons if this continues. And I don't think that's really helpful for any quarterback who's just coming in and is at the age of not even 25. So,
no, it's not good for anyone, let alone a very young, second youngest starting quarterback in the league right now. Definitely not an ideal situation.
Right. Now, let's talk about head coaching jobs. So, I mean, I was a big fan of Eric Bieniemy for a while. I know he's like the biggest name poster, but also like a good, some people of mine, talking about, Joe Brady.
Say that again?
Joe Brady.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So he could definitely be that guy. Panthers offensive coordinator, whoever he is, and I think he can change some things around, and everything could be good there. However, there's other people you can go to. I really like Bieniemy as a number 2 though. If we could fall back on him. However, over there, I don't think he's controlling the offense as much as other people see him controlling the offense. I think it's mostly Andy Reid that's running that show over there.
Okay. I think that's fair enough.
Yeah. So I mean, it would be cool to have someone who worked under Andy Reid and just won the most recent Super Bowl and stuff like that. But you really want someone I think that would be calling most of the shots. I mean, nothing against Eric Bieniemy. I loved him. I loved him last year. I want him this year. But he's just a number 2 right now, only because of the other guy. But yeah.
Sure. Now, is there anyone else that you kind of see as a potential replacement for Adam Gase other than Joe Brady? Or Bieniemy, I guess?
I mean, the Titans offensive coordinator could definitely do some work, I feel like.
I've heard a lot of people say his name. It's Arthur something or other. Yeah. Can't think of the name off the top of my head. Thank you so much for the call. Now I gotta look up the guy's name. The hell's his name? Arthur Smith. There it is.
Call from.
Oh, God. This sounds like it's Vinny. What's up, Vinny?
What's up?
What's on your mind, brother?
That way to get my interpretation of Matt LaGuardia.
I knew exactly what it was when I heard the guitar strings.
Oh, by the way, I was gonna say you could actually watch that video I sent you on Twitter. It's a clip. It's a specific clip from one of the early Family Guy seasons.
Oh God. Okay, let's see if I can pull it up real quick. I'll see. Is it long if I'm gonna watch it?
It's about a minute.
About a minute. I don't know if I'm gonna keep you guys waiting for a minute. I'll watch it after the stream.
Yeah, no, watch it after the stream. But yeah, I'll just tell people what it's a clip involving Peter, the episode where Peter supposedly gets a free boat.
Oh yeah, it's when he's going through. He's like, oh, but it could be everything. It could be a boat. Is that's the one you're talking about?
Yeah, no, but let's just go. This team is just dreadful, and then now after watching a second week where another team that's also dreadful finally fires their head coach.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, you see Dan Quinn get fired. You see Bill O'Brien get fired. What are the Jets doing?
You're probably going to see Matt. You're probably going to see Matt Patricia get fired.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think he's on his way out.
Like, yo, we'll be right. You shall see. I will be right.
Dude,
it's
I think...
You know, the thing is, this team has had a history of having golden eggs in front of their fingers and just letting it slip. I mean, you want to go back and, like, you know, go back to the 80s, that Dan Marino in their grasp, and they go for Ken O'Brien. No disrespect to O'Brien, but we all know he's no Dan Marino.
Sure. Yeah, no, would have liked to have had that pick back.
Or you want to go back into the 90s when they had the opportunity to draft Warren Sapp.
Sure, everyone wanted Sapp.
Or, you know, what happened, or the whole Belichick debacle.
Yeah, that was just a shitstorm. The Jets we've had terrible luck. If we didn't have bad luck, we'd have no luck at all.
You know, it's like, you know, it's just dread. And, you know, it looks like Matt Rule's going to become the next golden egg that this team lets slip through their fingers.
Hey, remember, keep in mind, we were beating ourselves up over Doug Marrone leaving, and who knows, maybe he could have taken us a little bit further, but he's not looking super hot down in Jacksonville either. So, you know, maybe there's some hope for us yet.
You know, they say a broken clock is right twice a day.
That is true. We just need to be right once, though. I feel like we haven't been right once at all.
I think you know, like I've said this, although Adam Gase was bad, the silver lining is Joe Douglas, because I don't think we would have gotten Joe Douglas without bringing in Gase.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of think about that, because Maccagnan gets fired mid-off-season, and then after the draft, Joe Douglas is available for the Jets to bring in. We basically said, hey, take whatever you want. 6-year contract, all yours. You get to build this team the way you want to build it. That is a silver lining. I do have a lot of faith in Joe Douglas. Now,
yeah, no, I know some people
there's going to be things. Sure. There's going to be people that are critical. Not bringing back Robbie Anderson.
And the thing is, yes, he's had a lot of experience in the front office, but there's being in the front office, and then there's being the GM, and you know, he's going to be prone to. He's going to make some rookie mistakes. It's expected when, you know, being your first real year as a GM.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's gonna be some bumps in the road, no matter who's coming in, as long as it's their first time being a head coach or their first time being a GM.
You know, even the greatest GMs had some bumps along. I mean, you know, I'm pretty sure Ozzie Newsome had his fair share of whiffs. I'm pretty sure George Young had his fair share of whiffs, and I've all mentioned it time and time again how Bill Belichick has whiffed on over 26 wide receivers.
Yeah. Look, hey, Belichick has not had a good drafting record over the course of his tenure with New England.
No, you know, so even the best of the best. And who's that other one? Charlie Cassidy was he the Redskins GM?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, and I think he was.
Don't know that much.
No, but yeah, I'm just saying, even the greatest GMs in the history of sports, you know, they've all made their fair share of bumps and mistakes. But, you know, I feel like he has a cohesive plan. He understands it. And, you know, and I get what people are comparing it to Idzik because he's stacking all this draft capital, but Idzik was a finance guy.
Vinny? Great call.
Call from.
Thank you so much for
Hi,
calling.
my name is Gabe.
Hey, what's good, brother? How you doing tonight? Welcome to the cockpit.
Hi, I wanted to talk about Quinnen Williams.
Sure, what's on your mind?
So, we could have maybe traded up in the draft to get CeeDee Lamb. I remember I was watching the stream. You guys talked about trading Quinnen Williams to the Cowboys for CeeDee Lamb.
Sure.
So, CeeDee Lamb's having a very good year. So, do you still have confidence in Quinnen Williams being a part of this team?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that comes from the defensive tackles just having a longer acclimation period. Like, it seems like a lot of the really good pass rushers or interior defensive linemen have taken a year or two, and Quinnen Williams seems to be kind of finding his role there. Now, I will say this. I think the team that we were looking at was the Falcons, if I'm not mistaken, for trading that. And then it was Jamal Adams we were going to trade to the Cowboys.
Yeah, sorry, I made a mistake there. You're right, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all right. But I loved CeeDee Lamb. I was pounding the table for CeeDee Lamb if tackle was not the choice. But I do stand by Becton. I think taking the left tackle was by far more important than taking the wide receiver. But man, it is bittersweet to see CeeDee Lamb, tearing it up for the team that we could have potentially traded Jamal Adams to, and then maybe we could have helped out Sam Darnold with CeeDee Lamb and Mekhi Becton in one shot, even if you don't get that second first-round pick from the the trade with him.
Yeah, and in the draft where we drafted Quinnen Williams, did you want Quinnen Williams in that draft, or was there anyone else that you would have taken over him?
With hindsight, I would have taken Josh Allen over Quinnen. At the time, I was very much in favor of Nick Bosa. Unfortunately, we won one of our last few games, and we were unable to get Nick Bosa. He went one pick ahead of us. Quinnen Williams was being touted as the best player in that draft next to Nick Bosa, and he could be the next Aaron Donald. So I was okay with making that decision. If you think he's going to be Aaron Donald, you make the pick. You have Greg Williams on your coaching staff who helped raise Aaron Donald in the Rams when they were in St. Louis. So I think there's that logic sort of made sense. I just think we had Leonard Williams on our team. It would have made more sense to get the pass rusher. Now with Josh Allen, when I was watching him, it didn't feel like he had many pass rush moves. It felt like he was just running around the tackles all the time, and I didn't think he'd be able to do that in the NFL. He has proven to be pretty good, and hindsight being what it is, I think you probably go with him, but then maybe you're paying Leonard Williams a ton of money that he may not deserve either. So it's sort of a weird double-edged sword for the New York Jets.
Yeah, and it's weird because the Jets, a lot of teams make very good late-round picks, and we have really not made any late-round picks, for the past, I don't even know how many years. I'm a little on the younger side, so I haven't been around for so many of this Jets years, but
Sure, no, that's all right. But look, we've had a lot of really bad decisions in the draft. When you look at second-round picks, the Jets have really only had a handful of successful second-round picks over the course of the last few years. You think you have Marcus May is the most recent one. Besides that, I don't even know how far you'd have to go back. You might have to go back to David Harris in, 2007 or so? I'd have to look back and actually see when he was taken. But the Jets have a string of just terrible, terrible second-round picks, which should be starters on your team. You should be hitting on your second-round picks.
Yeah, and also, so I want to talk about one more thing. Penei Sewell. So he's supposed to be an amazing tackle in this upcoming draft.
Yes.
In this upcoming in this upcoming draft, and him next to Mekhi Becton, that would be insane. Mommy said I could. I didn't say my name.
Yeah, when you look at the right tackle position, and George Fant and Chuma Edoga, doesn't really look like there's a lot of stability at that position. I think if you could bring in someone like Sewell to bookend that side, you have Becton on one side, Sewell on the other. Now all of a sudden you don't have to worry about your tackles for the next 10 years. That's basically what the Browns did with taking their tackle at number 10, and then you have Jack Conklin on the other side. I think having those two bookends allows your running game to be better, allows your quarterback to have more confidence. I think there's a lot of pros to doing that. Would that be your choice, the tackle at the top of the draft, if you don't go with the quarterback?
Maybe receiver, but
You're out
I don't know.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for calling in, brother. I look forward to your calls in the future. David, I apologize for not getting to your super chat. He says, where is a win coming from? I can't see one. I agree. I don't see one either. Miami's like the only one you might be able to sneak a win out of. Or if the Patriots or a team like that at the tail end of the season is resting a player for the playoffs. Those are the only wins I could see the Jets getting.
Matthew.
Matthew, what's good, brother? How you doing tonight?
I'm hanging in there. How about you?
Just another day in paradise. Talk me off a ledge. What are you thinking about Jet-wise?
All right, so I just wanted to ask, if the season ends right now and you couldn't see any more Sam Darnold, what would you do if you had the number 1 pick?
I would take Trevor Lawrence. Unfortunately, like, even if I see Sam play well the rest of the year and we have the number 1 pick, I'm still taking Trevor Lawrence at this point, just because the rookie contract is so valuable. To have 3 additional years of cheap contract compared to Sam's contract, like, even if you're saying they're 1A, 1B, even if Sam's like a little bit higher than maybe Trevor Lawrence is on anyone's list, I don't see that where that would be the case. I think most people would agree Trevor Lawrence seems like the better prospect compared to Sam when he came out. But I would take, based on everything I've seen from Sam, I would have to take the quarterback if we had the number 1 overall pick. What do you think?
So I'm sure. All right. Well, I think we should take Lawrence just because of that rookie contract. You don't see many people winning with their QBs making $30 million plus. So it's like you really need that rookie deal.
Yeah, that's really the biggest thing here. Like, if there was no benefit of a rookie contract and they were still getting paid a crazy ton of money, like Sam Bradford was getting paid, like Mark Sanchez was getting paid, then maybe there's a situation where you re-sign Sam for moderate starting quarterback money, and then you just continue to build around him. But because you need to win pretty much with a quarterback on a rookie deal, if you re-sign Sam and you don't have the team built up around him, you could just be treading around at 8-8, 7-9, 9-6, year in and year out. It would be very, very tough to try and win with a quarterback on a second-year contract when you still need to surround that quarterback with a lot of talent.
All right, so I'm sure you've seen what's happening with Le'Veon on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, who do you think Gase goes first? Like, who do you think's going to be gone first? They fire Gase or they trade Le'Veon first?
I think they're going to trade Le'Veon first just because the trade deadline comes before the end of the season. So I think Gase we're stuck with through the end of the year. At the very earliest, I think maybe you can Adam Gase during the Week 10 bye. But even then, I believe the trade deadline is Week 7, I think. I think we got 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before we have to move some of our guys. And I think Bell is probably on his way out because if we don't think we're bringing him back next year to play on his current contract, it makes all the sense in the world to try and get something for him before you let him go.
So I'm very concerned with Mims. He's been out like months with this hamstring injury. I'm like very worried. He's gonna, like, I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah, it's weird. The whole league has a lot of soft tissue injuries right now, so I'm not as concerned. Like, Mims doesn't have an injury history like that, like the way D. Milliner had coming into the league. So I think there's a lot of hope. I think a lot of people, and I see it kind of popping up in the chat, Dark Demonic's bringing it up, they think Mims is going to have a redshirt season, which in a sense is kind of what it's going to wind up being anyway, because we didn't have a preseason, we didn't have a full training camp. At this point coming in, you got to think he only practiced a handful of days at the beginning of training camp and then has sat out basically that entire time, and then he comes back and he re-injures it. So it's very hard for a young player to come in and learn the playbook, and maybe at this point it's better to put him on ice and just sort of learn from watching as opposed to learn from playing in a playbook that probably will not be here next year.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you think of the tight end position? Because we thought this would be one of the groups of like our strength for the season. Herndon can't catch a pass. Griffin hasn't done anything. So, do you think we make a tight end move in the offseason?
Man, I don't know. I would be looking at the Buccaneers and who they have at tight end. I don't know if there's any contracts coming up, but they have a plethora between Brate, Howard, and I guess Gronk. Gronk's not going anywhere. If he's not in Tampa Bay, he's going to retire. But I don't know. It's disappointing to see what happened with the Jets. You signed Wesco last year, as a draft pick. You bring back Ryan Griffin on a new deal, and then you have Herndon coming back from suspension and injury, and you expect him to go, that next step. I think for me, I don't know if I would necessarily address the position right away this offseason. It would probably be a next year type thing for me. Maybe you'd bring someone in the 3rd or 4th round if you really want to do that. But I think focal point should be wide receiver, edge rusher, cornerback, and quarterback before tight end this year. Brother, thank you so much for calling in. You've been ejected from the cockpit. Guys, in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, you're going to see a link to mybookie.ag. If you go to mybookie.ag and you want to gamble, you want to win some money, and you use promo code JT, they're going to match your initial deposit up to $1,000. Now, you do have to gamble that money. You can't just pull it out. So you got to, whatever money you're putting in and you're getting matched, you do have to bet that money. But if you want to win some money in a season that's otherwise lost, use promo code JT over at mybookie.ag, and they will match your initial deposit for your first deposit. Initial deposit. Boom, words. Can't say I've ever not butchered that. No, I've butchered that plenty of times. If you guys bet against the Jets, you're going to have a pretty good shot winning some money. I haven't bet the Jets would win in any of their first 5 games. And it's going to be a trend that I'm just going to continue, I think. Welcome to the cockpit. Anyone there? Negative. You have been ejected from the cockpit. Let's try this again. Let's redo the Google Voice real quick. Guys, if you want your chance to win a Just End the Suffering shirt, answer this question down below. If the Jets don't own the number 1 overall pick, which position would you choose? There is a link to the Flick chat down in the description. I believe it's the 3rd option down. Go down, enter there, and get yourself entered to win a hat, shirt, or mug from the Jets Talk
Call
store.
from
Ethan.
Ethan, what's good, brother? How you doing tonight?
Hey, what's good, man? Hey, just
I'm
wanted to
trying to hang
give
in.
you a couple of my thoughts.
Sure.
Yeah, Neville Hewitt can cover a paper towel. I know we were high on him.
I don't want to say I'm high on him. I want to say his Pro Football Focus grade has gotten better over the last few weeks than what it initially was. That's not me being high on Hewitt. I would much rather C.J. Mosley or Avery Williamson be out there. But yes, go on.
Oh, I hear you. But Williams is covering the other side, so we were
Correct.
kind of screwed on that. But what else did I have for you? I had your answer to your question was, who would I take? Obviously, you have to take the best offensive lineman in football. That's coming out.
You think that would be?
You have to take the best offensive lineman. I mean, we have to solidify that line. The line is George Fant is awful.
Yeah, he's not very good. If you could rock solid finish that line, like you bring in Thuney at guard, you bring in Sewell at tackle, then you have Becton at tackle, and all of a sudden this offensive line looks like it's probably as legit as we have seen since 2009, 2010.
Yes, and then another one is we got to push the ball down the field. You know what I did notice in the game was, you notice how the running game kind of opened up, right?
Sure.
We had a decent running game like that. I think it's because they were all, holy crap, that's Flacco. He throws the ball down the field.
Yeah, I'll give him that. Flacco's deep ball looked a lot better than Sam's deep ball. Sam does not seem to have a very good deep ball, or at least isn't on the same pages as receivers. I'd like to see him just let it rip. Just be like, hey, Sam, you're playing for your next team. Just fucking go at it. Just bomb the ball. Let's see what you can do.
Well, you got to remember, this freaking media tries to crush him every time he throws a goddamn interception. Right, so now the kid's got it in his head. Oh, I can't throw an interception. I can't throw an interception. You know what I mean? He's got to just know, go ahead, air it out. You know what I mean? Flacco's I don't care. It's a one-on-one. Throw it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You watch it all over the league. He just has to start doing it, and it just opened up the run game immensely for us.
Yeah, I think if you can get a number 1 wide receiver in here, if you think Chase is that guy that's going to jump up and get that ball, or if Mims is that guy, and you have more faith in him winning a one-on-one matchup, I think that creates a lot more confidence in your quarterback, and it opens up the playbook a lot more because now you don't have safeties creeping down. You don't have 7 guys, 8 guys in the box. You have a little bit more room to run the ball. Now, I don't know if that necessarily opens it up for Bell more, but I think it does allow you maybe a screen pass, maybe some other running options that otherwise wouldn't have been open.
Yeah, and then we can't, and everyone can't forget, we still have Bryce Hall on the wings, so hopefully he's a good late round pick.
I got my fingers crossed for that one. Green Bean loves Bryce Hall. Green Bean's a big Bryce Hall fan.
Yeah, he is. He's a huge fan. So, but hopefully he's a good late round pick for us. And then, Jordan Jenkins, he's a solidified starter on our team. He's a late round, third rounder. You know what I mean? Just answering a question that I heard earlier.
Yeah. Look, he's an interesting piece. He's the kind of player that you kind of hope for out of a third round pick, like a solid player. I won't say rotational player because I think he's better than that. I think he's a decent piece and a starter. I think you can upgrade from him. Like I would prefer, if we get 2 edge rushers in here, I would prefer probably 2 edge rushers over what we're getting out of Jenkins. But if he winds up being the guy we bring back for another year and we still add an edge presence on the other side, I could live with that.
Yeah, we can always pay for an edge.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because as me, just going into it, I want a guy that's solidified as an edge rusher. You know what I mean? Because it's a crapshoot.
Sure.
But,
now is that
lineman, if you get like top offensive lineman, basically,
sure.
Okay, I got a good offensive lineman for the next 10 years. Those edge rushers, they're iffy. It's kind of like that 50-50 shot.
So would you prefer to get an edge rusher in free agency? And if so, is there someone that you're hoping we go for?
I do prefer free agency. I want to see what the market looks like when it opens for that. You know what I mean? I mean, there's obviously guys that, teams are down. Teams are, losing right now, and we have some options here at the trade deadline. You know what I mean? I wouldn't get rid of Le'Veon, but if somebody's offering a decent edge rusher to come in here, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And we give them a late round pick, and they pick up a salary, I'll take it.
It would be interesting. I think if the Jets could pass off Bell's salary or get a third, fourth round pick, I think they'd be willing to move him. I think that seems like Bell. It's not blending well. I think, regardless of how you feel about the guy as a person, like I really like Le'Veon Bell. I still endorse the signing. It just didn't work out. I don't endorse the head coach. I endorse the signing of Bell.
To accept, press 1. To send
if I
a
knew Gase was
voicemail,
going to be
press 2.
everything he is, I would have said no. Welcome to the cockpit.
What's going on, Ryan? How you doing, man?
I'm trying to hang in there. Just depressing. Just a really depressing year if you're a Jets fan.
Oh, absolutely. I almost fell asleep watching that game. I was lucky because my internet was getting all messed up in like the third quarter, so I didn't really miss much, I guess. But it definitely didn't mess up when I was screaming at my computer watching a tight end getting more carries than our running back that we invested a draft pick in. And then, of course, you don't use Frank Gore in the one role you should use him for, which that was absurd. But I had a question for you. So do you think there's a shot we could get Lincoln Riley as a coach? Because, everyone's saying he's not leading Oklahoma, but, they're not doing too good this year, I'm pretty sure. So he's someone I would look to, especially if we don't get the first pick. If you keep Sam, think about, he's kind of turned quarterbacks around, with, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, they weren't anything amazing. I'm pretty sure because I'm pretty sure they're both transfers, and then they came to Oklahoma, won the Heisman, and then Jalen Hurts was actually pretty decent after being kind of more that running wildcat style quarterback before. So I think it would be interesting to have him. What do you think?
Lincoln Riley has actually been my top choice for head coach for a while. I really like Lincoln Riley a lot. I don't think he's coming. His contract right now, $8 million next year, 7.5 in 2022. Then he's got $8 million and then 7.5. So he's signed through 2025 with the Oklahoma Sooners. If the Jets could somehow, if the Jets could somehow pry him away, now because there's buyouts, there's all different kinds of things that could happen with college coaches. So I don't want to say it's not possible. But the Jets are going to have to throw a lot of money at him if they want him to come here.
Yeah. So another thing I've heard you talk with a bunch of callers on the show is you guys have been talking draft. So for me, to answer your question, if we don't get that number 1 pick, let's say we get the number 2, I'd go with Penei Sewell just because my kind of draft philosophy is you take like more premium positions in the first round. Like a lot of times it seems like first round wide receivers don't seem to pan out. Like I saw those videos like about how like wide receivers like 2015 on like have not worked out. Guys like arguably 2 guys on our team, Rashad Perryman and Josh Doxson, did not work out. Who's the dude of the Chicago? Kevin White. He was really bad.
Yep.
The dude on the Bengals, John Ross. Like a lot of the guys, Sammy Watkins on the Bills, Corey Davis. So Jamar Chase was really good, but I don't think I'd want to invest a top 5 pick in a wide receiver. Like I saw this thing about like how the Steelers, like all their wide receivers are not first rounders, and like how well they're playing, like Juju, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson. So, and also with that Seattle pick, I'd actually want to go cornerback because this free agent market at corner is terrible. Like I looked who it is, and like it's bad. So I think that would be cool. I'd go edge in wide receiver and free agency, and then preferably edge because like I really want Shaq Barrett, but I don't know if he's going to shake loose from Tampa. But yeah, man.
Look, if I had let's say this: we don't get the first pick, we're picking 2 or 3. Now maybe that means you're rolling with Sam. If that's what you're kind of you don't have Trevor Lawrence, maybe you don't believe in Trey Lance or whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at free agency,
quarterback.
Yeah, I don't want to trade up. I would rather let the draft fall to us, and I would prefer if we are gonna roll with Sam, I would try like hell to get Juju Smith-Schuster in here if Sam's our quarterback.
Yeah,
I think
USC
I would.
Connection.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's going to depend on who our head coach is as to whether or not we're going to be able to attract free agents. I think that's going to be a huge issue for the Jets. Now, if you can bring in an edge rusher and a wide receiver, that would be my ideal plan in free agency. My thought process with the tackle at the top of the draft, I'm okay with it. I would probably prefer edge, but I would be splitting hairs if you say the tackle wouldn't be the, is the other option. That later first round pick from Seattle, I do like cornerback a lot, or running back, either one of them. I like ETN a lot. ETN's someone that I would use a first round pick on later in the first round. I don't think he's going to make it to us, but cornerback is definitely one of those positions I'm looking at for sure.
I'm sort of down to like run more of like a running back by committee kind of set with P. Ryan, get some other guy in here. Like I'd be interested in doing that just because I don't want to like spend a super high pick on a running back. Also, another thing when it comes to coaching candidates, dude, I keep seeing Jim Harbaugh. I don't understand because what has he done at Michigan? And also, you're probably gonna hang up before this. Thoughts on Joe Brady as a head coach?
Ooh, interesting questions. So Harbaugh, I agree. I'm not high on him. I don't like what he's done at Michigan. I think he hasn't had success in the NFL since 2013 now. I think he's a little bit out of touch.
Devon.
Joe Brady, interesting option. I would be okay with that. Welcome to the cockpit.
How you doing?
Not too bad. What's on your mind, brother?
Adam Gase. Oh my God.
Oh, it's terrible. It's so bad. I think it's 1-11, or it's either 1-10 or 1-11 through September and October as the Jets head coach.
It is mind blowing because it's like if this was any other NFL team, he would have been out the door. Did you watch his press conference today?
I didn't watch it today. I saw some snippets from it. What was going on?
Okay, so he was asked. I'm sorry, I keep laughing because he's a buffoon. But he asked. He was asked why was Le'Veon Bell utilized like only one time in the catching, like in the passing game.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I believe he said he didn't like the safety matchups on Le'Veon Bell and what they were doing. We couldn't adjust. Basically, that's what he said. We couldn't adjust.
He's a clown.
What more do you need to hear? Yeah, what more do you need to hear from him?
You have arguably the best offensive weapon that's come through the league in the last 10, 20 years, whatever it is, from what he's done based on his production at Pittsburgh, and we just can't figure out how to use this guy. It drives me up a friggin' wall.
And that's why I'm saying, like, okay, if you trade Le'Veon, okay, then I'm thinking we going all in for Trevor, but
if you feel like it's hope for Sam Darnold, you don't give away Le'Veon, because I feel like we need as much talent as humanly possible on this team.
I completely agree. And honestly, if the new head coach that comes in at the end of the season, if Joe Douglas isn't completely opposed to holding on to Le'Veon Bell, I'm okay with holding on to him. I think there's an option
it's not a
where
problem.
you could see, just sort of see what goes on. You don't really have to make a decision on Bell until August 1st of next year, so I guess it's before training camp. But I don't think there's any reason the Jets couldn't watch him play a little bit next year, and then if they want to move him, they move on from him then. I think creating a hole on your roster just to create a hole to get a third-round pick isn't necessarily the best decision. It's going to depend a lot, like you said, on if they believe in Sam Darnold, and if they think we're going with Trevor Lawrence. Like, I don't believe in Sam Darnold, then they're going to pull the trigger on Bell real quick.
I got two questions. What do you think about Doug Peterson as our head coach? I believe Sam Darnold, he reminds me a lot of Carson Wentz as far as like getting out the pocket. I can see that. I can see Doug Peterson. He won a Super Bowl. Get in here, get him in the building, and I'm liking the right tackle this year. I say you get that right tackle with Becton. Oh my God.
You just have guys throwing people around. I wouldn't be opposed to that. That's an interesting thought process. And when you look at Doug Peterson and who he's had as his tackles, he's had Lane Johnson. He drafted Andre Dillard. They had who's their other left tackle? Jason Peters has been there forever. So he's had good bookend tackles. So you could see that happen. With Doug Peterson. Yeah, I mean, think about it. One goes down, you slide the other one over. You're not losing. I mean, you're losing obviously a really good player, but you're still protecting your most valuable player's blind side. So I think that's an interesting situation. And then do you keep Becton at left tackle or do you move him to right tackle? There's a lot of weird, questions you could potentially do with that scenario. Doug Peterson overall, I think the Doug Peterson and the Greg Roman connections with Baltimore and with Philadelphia and Joe Douglas, those are interesting outlets for me. And I don't see Peterson as being an option for us. I think he's in the last year of his contract, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's sort of where this kind of comes in. So if he doesn't want to renegotiate and he wants to go elsewhere, maybe that's, what happens. God, I don't know. Is there someone you particularly want? Like, is Peterson your guy?
Oh, no. I was just seeing what you thought about him. I honestly, I don't know who could fix this mess. I honestly don't know, because it's like the enemy. I heard he doesn't even really call the plays that much, so I don't know about that. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like, who can fix us? I don't know.
I think a lot of it is going to have to be Joe Douglas. It's going to have to be drafting players. I don't see the Jets as being an easily coachable team at this point. Oh, God, we stink so bad. We need a culture change more than anything else. Thank you so much for the call-in. Guys, if you want your shot to win a Just End the Suffering shirt, answer this question. If the Jets don't own the number one pick, which position would you choose? Answer that down. It's the third link down in the description. The Flick Check, click on that. You'll see the poll there. Vote for what position you'd want the Jets to go with.
Call from
Frank.
Frank, what's good, brother? How you doing tonight?
I've been better. How about you, bro?
Oh, man, every time I do this show and it's after a Jets loss, which has been a lot over the last 2 seasons, I'm just so depressed. I want to be really excited and jazzed up for once after a Sunday, and it's just, man, this team is so friggin' boring.
Oh my God, tell me about it. No, I just wanted to see exactly. During the press conference today, Gage said that he might give up play calling duties. Who do you think he's going to give it to?
I really hope it's Jim Bob Cooter
or Loggins.
I hope it's not Loggins. Loggins seems like his job is best suited at throwing the challenge flag. I feel like I would prefer Jim Bob Cooter, and because I like what I saw out of Golden Tate in Detroit. I think maybe we could see a similar production out of Jamison Crowder. I think the upside with Cooter is a little bit better than the upside with Loggins. Now, does he ultimately pull that trigger? I think he will at some point. I don't know if it's going to be this week. He might want to try and beat Miami because it's kind of still a little bit of bad blood there. But I don't know. This team's in for a long stretch of weeks that don't don't look like they're going to end well for the New York Jets.
Let me ask you a question. How long are we paying Todd Bowles for? Because I've heard that the reason why they don't want to fire Gase is because they're still paying Bowles.
I've heard people say that. So we're paying Bowles through the end of this year, and then we'd be paying Adam Gase, I believe, for the next 2. I think he signed a 4-year contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I hope it was just a 3. But Bowles is definitely paid through the end of the season. Head coaching contracts are fully guaranteed. The reason why I think Adam Gase is not being fired, I don't think it's a money thing because we have Greg Williams on the roster, and more than likely Greg Williams becomes the interim head coach. So you're not going out and paying a new head coach. I think the likely reason we're not firing him is because Chris Johnson has come out and publicly backed Adam Gase. I think there's a part of the organization that is probably in favor of keeping Adam Gase just so it locks us into that number 1 overall pick. I think if you get in some fresh blood, you might get some players fighting a little bit harder, which you may not want to see if you're Joe Douglas, if you're the ownership. Like if you think Trevor Lawrence is going to be your guy, I think there's a situation where you just allow Adam Gase to just sort of coach out the year. And it's brutal to have happen because I think it's tearing apart this locker room. I think it's tearing apart the morale of this team. I don't know.
Doesn't even give a damn. They don't care. And they showed it against Denver, the way that they were just hitting the quarterback and the penalties Williams gave up as well. Look, this all falls on Douglas. Douglas has to make a move. He has to make a move now. And if he really has the power that he says he does, he's got to get rid of this guy like this week.
Yeah,
I think this is getting ridiculous.
So Douglas doesn't have the authority to fire Gase. That has to come from ownership because of the structure that it is. So I think Chris Johnson is ultimately going to make that decision. But I do think that the next head coach, whoever that is going to be a Joe Douglas hire. I think Chris Johnson will step out of the way. He will allow Joe Douglas to make his selection. But yeah, man, I would like to believe Douglas can at least get in Chris Johnson's ear and say whether or not he wants Adam Gase right now. Like, I think Douglas is okay with rolling with Gase and giving him the full season because there is part of me that says, okay, look, he doesn't have Perriman. He doesn't have Mims. Like, he has no one to throw to. But then there's, stupid boneheaded play calls like I see with, not running it with your quarterback on 1st or 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 when you have a 6'5", 6'6" quarterback that could just fall forward. Like, some of this stuff doesn't make sense to me. That's what really hangs me up on the whole Adam Gase thing.
Yeah, exactly. And we just ruined a franchise quarterback in Darnold.
I really think we did. It breaks my heart because I really believe in Sam
they gave him the worst talent.
Oh, it's
like
brutal.
Come on, McCaggan's bringing in Bell, but you don't fix that O-line. I mean, get out of here.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. It kills me because I really think Sam's going to be a good quarterback. I think wherever we trade him, I hope he goes to the Saints and he's out of the AFC and he can thrive under Sean Payton. But man, I really wanted to see what he would do with the New York Jets, and we just dealt him such a raw deal. If the Jets get the 1st overall pick, I think you have to go Trevor Lawrence.
You got the worst hand out of any quarterback.
Oh, easily. It's not even close. Like, Josh Rosen had a pretty
Baker,
raw deal.
Baker's got so much talent around him. It's incredible.
Baker, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. These guys have loads of talent and loads of support from their coaching staff. Darnold doesn't have any of that.
Yeah. Always a pleasure, bro.
Thank you so much for calling in. I will talk to you again. Remember, guys, if you want your shot at a Just End the Suffering shirt, make sure you answer this question. If the Jets don't own the number 1 pick, which position would you choose? Answer that on the Flick Chat, and I will raffle off this shirt at the end of the show. Looks like we got about 20 people who have voted. So make sure you get your votes in soon.
To accept.
Welcome to the cockpit.
Hello, hi. I was interested in talking about the off season.
Sure, absolutely.
So there's a lot of talk about going after receivers and potentially running backs, quarterbacks, offensive linemen. Not as much made about pass rushers. I was wondering what you were thinking about that.
I would feel more comfortable going after pass rushers in free agency, I think, just because I think, not that speed isn't an issue or whatever, but I think you can add 2 for a relatively reasonable price. Like, I would bring in like an older pass rusher, maybe like a Melvin Ingram, and then try to lock in someone younger like a Matthew Judon, a Shaq Barrett, a Bud Dupree. I think there's a few options for the Jets to go. With wide receiver, it's a little tougher. Like Juju, I would bring in if we keep Sam. If we're not keeping Sam, I don't think I'd touch him at this point.
Right.
I do like Allen Robinson. I would consider bringing him in if you could pay him and get him on board. In terms of edge rushers in the draft, I think there's one highly touted one. Outside of that, I'd have to dig down. I haven't done enough draft research, but I think it's more of a gamble in the draft. I'd rather get the sure thing. Like I think edge rusher kind of translates from spot to spot in the NFL, so I'm not as worried going that route in free agency.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, they're the high-end guys last year that were tagged, like Shaq Barrett and Judon, and I think Dupree was tagged as well.
Yep. Yeah.
So there's some of that. And then Clowney's available, too, and he's playing pretty well with Tennessee right now.
Yeah, Clowney's an interesting option. I don't particularly like Clowney, especially for the amount of money he's going to command. But heck, I would just take any kind of talent on the New York Jets right now. Like you got to get some guys that come in hungry, fired up. Like I don't want to bring in someone who's just looking to retire while still gaining a contract. Like that's basically what we've gotten out of our free agents in the past.
Yeah. And another question I had, kind of unrelated, but if we end up firing Gase at the end of the year, are you completely against the idea of hiring a defensive coach? I know that the trend has been going offensive guys.
Sure. I wouldn't say I'm completely against it. I would say I'm not 100% in favor of it. As long as you bring in a competent offensive coordinator. Like if there's a passing game coordinator that's a trending name and you can bring him in as an offensive coordinator, then I think you have something. The thing with bringing in an offensive-minded head coach is they tend to bring an offensive staff with them. Where a defensive coach, you're probably dealing more with the defensive side of the ball, and I don't know if you'll get the expertise needed to groom a rookie quarterback or help manage a young quarterback like Sam. So I would prefer the rookie quarterback, or the offensive coordinator, the rookie head coach, if it's an offensive coordinator. I like Urban Meyer. I like some of the guys that have been head coaches that can bring their talent pool in. I think that makes a lot of sense. I just don't know if we're going to be able to squeeze Urban Meyer out of retirement.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think that he might go to the Dallas job last year, or if a big opportunity opened up. I don't know if necessarily. I say this because two of the guys that I've seen linked to us is Don Martindale in Baltimore because of the Joe Douglas connection, and then Jim Schwartz in Philly, same connection.
I wouldn't be opposed to either one necessarily. I think they've been around the league long enough where they could probably find some pieces to plug in on offense. But I think it has to be an offensive-minded team. Like I want to be the team that goes out there, and we might lose 35-45, but at least we're throwing points up left and right. Like I want to have that explosive team, and I just don't think bringing in a defensive coordinator is going to trend us in that direction. I think they're going to want to spend their draft picks on defensive players. They're going to want to spend their money on defensive players. I don't know. It's a tough. It's going to be a tough call. I think if the Jets own the number one pick, we're going to have a lot more options than if we don't own the number one pick.
Yeah, I personally agree that I favor an offensive guy, but I wouldn't be against hiring the right defensive guy in the right situation. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, no, I definitely do. I think whoever it is, it needs to be a leader of men. It needs to be a guy that can lead an entire room, not just their side of the operation. Like Gase running just the offensive side of the ball. Todd Bowles running the defensive side of the ball. Rex Ryan running the defensive side of the ball. I don't think that approach works. I think you need an overall head coach, and I don't think I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Thank you so much for your call. Much appreciated. Lots of good thoughts there. Guys, we got about 5 more minutes left of this poll. If you want your shot to win a Just End the Suffering shirt, I will be raffling that off at the end of the show. All you have to do is answer this question right below my little screen right here. If the Jets don't own the number 1 overall pick, which position would you choose? All you have to do is answer that in the Flick Chat. As it stands right now, wide receiver is the overwhelming majority at 65%. Right tackle is 20%, which I guess could be left tackle or right tackle, depending on how you feel. Edge is 10%, quarterback 5%. No one has voted for a cornerback. Some interesting thought processes there. Interesting. What are you guys talking about in the chat? Dark Demonic. You guys love Dark Demonic. I guess he's gone. Man. He leaves the chat. All the sadness. Quiz 1-on-1 says trade number 1. The Truth Be Told says, okay, you guys were wrong about Sam, so what? Look, we were wrong. He's not the elite prospect that we wanted him to turn into. I think he still has the talent. I want to see him succeed. I wish it could be with the Jets, but I think if the Jets earn that number 1 overall pick, the rookie contract is just far too valuable for us to pass up on. So I fully endorse the selection of Trevor Lawrence based on that knowledge. Lame Cactus asking, what do I think about Dwayne Haskins? I think he's terrible. I think he's really bad. Like, I don't think he's a very good quarterback, and I think that's eventually what's going to be, I think he's gone. I don't think he's going to be with the Redskins next year. Jordan Ivey, thanks so much. Cornerback is a big issue. Your solution. My solution is twofold. So it's going to be edge rusher in free agency, possibly edge at the top of the draft, and then cornerback with our second first-round pick or our top second-round pick. That's what I would look for in terms of cornerback. I think the free agent market's a little barren. Hey, what's good, brother? How you doing tonight?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
Trying to hang in there as best I can. Did you answer our question of the day?
Oh, wait, which was I just turn on the stream like right now.
Ooh, if you go down into the description of the video, there's a link to the Flick chat. All you have to do is answer the poll question. Who would you pick at number 1 overall if the Jets, or who would you pick if the Jets don't have the number 1 overall pick?
All right, so that was actually the question I was going to ask. So if the Jets have the second overall pick, right?
Yes.
And let's just say they get Greg Roman as the new head coach, the Ravens offensive coordinator, would you pick up Justin Fields?
I would prefer not Justin Fields. I like Trey Lance a lot more at this point in time. Now I'm sure I'll have to watch actual, more footage on both guys to have a more concrete thought process. But from what I've seen out of Trey Lance, I think he is really, really good. I think he's the type of quarterback that sort of falls into a Kyler Murray type role, falls into more of the Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson kind of feel. Justin Fields, I don't hate him, but he just throws to a lot of wide open guys all the time. So he's not as appealing to me as Trevor Lawrence or Trey Lance is. I don't know. What would your pick be if the Jets didn't have the first pick?
It would definitely. I mean, I'm not the biggest Lance fan. I think I'd pick Fields if they were Greg Roman. If they don't, then I mean, you wouldn't pick Jamar Chase at 2. Like, receivers don't go at 2. So I'd try to trade back with a team that be quarterback hungry, and then try to pick up Jamar Chase or Gregory Rousseau.
That's probably a good decision. If you're picking 2 or 3 and there's a team looking to come up to get a quarterback, if we are holding on to Sam Darnold, you would have to be sure on who you're picking. Like, Jamar Chase is taking a year off, so we're not seeing what he's playing like this year. We've seen players take a year off, and it hasn't been very good. But we've also seen college players like a Nick Bosa take a year off, and it's kind of been fine. So it's an interesting dilemma for our Jets. I would say I agree. I think number 2 overall is too high for a wide receiver. Now, if you feel comfortable taking him at number 5, then by all means take him at number 2. I don't think that's so much the issue. But I do think Douglas is more of a premium position guy, so edge rusher and tackle feel like more of the right decision that high in the draft, if quarterback's not the option, than a wide receiver would be.
So who would you get with the second first-round pick then? If we don't, let's just say if we have number 1 overall pick and we get Trevor Lawrence, who would you get with that second first-round pick?
So if I were to look at let's say the draft comes first before free agency, because a lot of what's going to be dictated draft day is going to be determined based on who we select in free agency and who we bring in. So if we say that Trevor Lawrence is our first pick, then my second pick would probably be a wide receiver at the tail end of the first round. If I had to go maybe edge rusher or tackle in the first part of the first round, then I would go cornerback as my second pick. I think corner and edge are the two positions I'd really like to address coming out of this offseason, whether that is the free agency period where you bring in a Dupree or a Judon or a Clowney or a Shaq Barrett, someone like that. You got to bring in an edge presence in free agency. I would throw whatever money they want at him. You have the money, go out and get the guy. But you have to decide where you're going to allocate these resources. What makes the most sense? Sam Darnold is the biggest piece of this puzzle. If you're going with the quarterback early on, then maybe you invest some big money in some other positions, and then you invest all your draft picks on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know. It's going to be a really tough question to answer, I think, and I have no idea which way Joe Douglas is going to go on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would have to go offense, right? I mean, unless you get Quincy Roche from, what was it, Miami or Florida? One of those edge rushers from Florida.
Yeah, I like the edge rushing talent at the very top end of this draft. I don't know. I feel like we have to go offense. We've just gotten so much defense over the last few years. I'd rather, if I could bring in two options at edge rusher in free agency, like maybe an older guy like Melvin Ingram, and then bring in maybe a younger guy, because we're going to have about $70 or $80 million in cap space, not including the money that you're going to bring in from trading Le'Veon Bell or cutting Le'Veon Bell. So the Jets are going to have a lot of options at their disposal. It's just a matter of how much are they willing to pay these guys to come in here, because I don't think they're going to want to come here without getting paid a bucket. You're out of here! And brother, thank you so much for calling in. I'm going to shut off the phone lines for right now because we got about 4 minutes left. We had 20 people vote on our poll question of the day. If you guys want to keep the conversation going outside of just the YouTube sphere or the Discord sphere, you could jump on the Flick chat. It's down below. It also links to the podcast for the Talking Jets podcast, so if you guys are interested in that sort of stuff, you can always listen to it from there as well. Kind of a fun game day chat sort of situation. We were going back and forth a little bit yesterday in there. What are you guys talking about in the chat? Travis Etienne. I'm a big Etienne fan. Big fan. I had him in my mock off-season. Was it my 1.0 or my 2.0 last year? It was before he had decided to go back to college. Or maybe I had him in it prior to me making it. It's possible. I have a guy that worked for me last year who went to Clemson and was real high on Etienne. And then I saw him and he's just like, no, Etienne's going back to school. And I was like, crap. Got to change my thought process. I would have preferred to take him last year. Now, if we can get him with the second first-round pick, I think you can talk me into that. He's the type of running back that comes out kind of like a Kamara. Just a dual-threat kind of guy, a real lethal weapon. But that begs the question, are we actually going to be able to get him the ball? That's the all-crucial point. All right. We're getting down to that last little bit of the show, so let me go through and pick a winner for tonight's shirt. Let me see here. Pull it up real quick. Guys, if you can list a name, or sorry, not a name, a 1 through 10 in the chat, whichever one has the most votes, I will pick that out for our winner for the shirt. We got a 1, a 7, eight, 7, 3, 5. Man, got a bunch of names in there. I like it. All right. So our winner of today's shirt is going to be Jojo Nolan. Jojo Nolan, thank you so much for tuning in and voting, doing everything. that you do to support the channel. It's always much appreciated. Guys, it's that time of night where I say so long, and I will be back here tomorrow. We'll be talking with Matt and Green Bean and those guys a little bit more about our Jets. Hopefully, we can get some more answers and their thought processes on what's going on. Justin Aarons, new follower here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Throw that right at the end of the show. Guys, it's been real. It's been real frustrating. We'll talk all about the head coaching search, all about top draft picks, players, everything you want tomorrow on the Talking Jets panel. Guys, my name is Ryan. I've been your pilot tonight. This is Jets Talk, signing off. Jets.